hope you are having an amazing day and welcome to Just Minding My Business. And I'm excited to bring to you today Mr. Quan, who joined the performance advertising industry in 1998 and has built a career in the industry providing strategic business solutions for teams and clients. His record of helping grow stable, successful organizations is underpinned by a career long personal commitment to great client experiences. Mr. Kwan combines big picture perspective with exacting attention to make sure 15 clients and team members get value out of their work every day. Wow. Welcome, Mr. Kwan. How are you this day?
I am doing well. Thank you for having me on the podcast.
I appreciate you being here. So tell us all about 415 Digital.
Yeah, we are an 8-year-old performance marketing agency that specializes in helping businesses across different verticals scale, grow through digital marketing. So we are investing our clients' dollars on various online channels, specifically Google, Microsoft, Bing, Meta, LinkedIn, TikTok, to help them acquire customers.
Okay. So let me ask you, what all goes into that?
Yeah, a it's a process. So typically, we're looking for advertisers that are currently investing at least 80 to $100,000 a month in digital advertising across the channels that I mentioned. It could be one of the channels, it could be numerous channels, but typically someone that is investing currently in digital marketing who's looking to scale and take their paid marketing campaigns to the next level. So we come in, and our area of expertise is media buying. So that means we understand each of the platforms very intimately. We understand how to leverage those platforms to help businesses find the right audiences, i.e., the right customers that they are looking for, which will then translate into generating leads for them, sales, really whatever the conversion event is that they're looking for. So media buying is a big part of that, which means we're buying on Facebook, we're buying on Google, we're buying on TikTok, depending on the client and where their customers are. But in addition to media buying, we're also helping customers design ads to support the marketing campaigns, helping them design landing pages. We're helping them come up with the right offers, the right messaging. And so creative design is a big part of what we do to support media buying. And then lastly, you can't manage what you can't measure in business. So we spend a lot of time helping customers build the right tracking infrastructure that supports the marketing campaigns and allows them to report on all the key performance indicators that they look at for their particular business.
Okay, so when you say, you know, I'm really into analytics. I need to know what I'm doing is doing something. So when you say building that, what does that involve?
Yeah, I mean it's setting up the right tracking for each of the platforms that we're buying on, um, and implementing the tracking links on websites, on conversion pages. There are technicalities to it that are not something that I'm as knowledgeable of, but the most important thing to know that we want for all of our customers who invest money in the different digital marketing platforms is that we want to be able to know where every sale comes from, right? So if we're spending money on Google, we want to know how many sales we generated through Google. If it's Facebook, how many sales generated from Facebook. We want to be able to look at that data on a channel basis and then tie it back to what the investment was so that we can calculate what the return was. How efficient was this media? So we don't want to just have one number that represents multiple platforms, because that doesn't help you look at things on a very individual basis. So the tracking that we do is really on a channel basis, but even within a channel, we do different levels of tracking. So within a particular channel, you might be targeting different geographies, right? So we want to look at performance at the geo level. So there are different ways to kind of break out tracking, but really the most simple way to think about it is we want to be able to attribute a sale on a very specific platform basis so that you as a client know how much money you're spending and then what you are getting in return.
And I would assume that it would also lend to itself to where you're getting the most activity and where you're not.
It basically is exactly that. It's how data is what informs our decision making process,
Mhm.
right? So when we have the right tracking, that enables us to report on the activities and then make decisions based on the data that we're seeing. So high integrity data is really important in what we do, which is why we start with what is not very sexy, which is, hey, I know this isn't launching ads and going live with campaigns, but we have to take a step back and evaluate the current tracking infrastructure to make sure it has a level of sophistication we need to support the investment. We have clients that are investing millions of dollars on a monthly basis in digital advertising. And so if we don't have the right tracking infrastructure, we're really operating very blindly. So
Mhm.
we really need to spend time doing that thoroughly and making sure that before we start investing dollars that we have that set up correctly.
Absolutely. So if businesses want to work with you, how do they connect with you?
Yeah, there are various ways that we can connect with prospective clients, but 415 Digital is our website, four15digital.com. There you can see a variety of information around the services that we offer clients. We also feature case studies for some of the work we've done for companies in different verticals, companies of different sizes and stages. And then also tells you a little bit about kind of our culture, values, mission statement, job openings. So really, if you're someone looking to get into the digital marketing world and you're looking to work for an agency, there's a lot of information there. If you're a prospective client who's interested in learning more about our services, there's plenty of information for you to read there.
Okay, awesome. So when you are working, let's say you are selecting a client, okay? A client comes out to you and wants your services. What is the criteria? What are some of the things that you ask and look for?
Yeah. So one of the things is, are you currently investing in digital marketing? That's important because that directly correlates with them being able to afford us. We have fees that we charge advertisers we have minimum fees. So, for example, our minimum fee is $8,000 a month, regardless of how much you're spending in advertising. So that's why we typically are looking for someone who's spending at least 80 to $100,000 in digital marketing, because as a percentage, that's when it really makes sense for them. A percentage of the media spend. So one, we're looking for a minimum spend online. We do make exceptions to that for companies that maybe are earlier stage or companies in the B2B space, business to business space, because they typically have a smaller audience that they're trying to reach. And because of that, we know that there are fewer impressions out there. And therefore, we know that their investment will be capped, mostly because their audience is very small. So there are exceptions to that rule where we say, oh, you're a B2B company, you're only spending $20,000 a month. That's okay. We'll still talk to you. But in general, we're looking for someone that's spending in that range. Like I said, in addition to that, um, it's really not so much category specific. We have a broad set of companies that we work with. So a lot of diversity in the portfolio in terms of B2B companies, B2C within the B2B segment. true SMBs to enterprise sized companies. We work with startups. We work with small businesses that are generating $5, $10 million a month to publicly traded companies that are doing $6 billion a year in revenue, and then everything in between. So I think in terms of the type of business, we're really ideally looking for someone that is a national business versus someone that is selling a product or service in a very sort of specific geography. So the wider net we can cast, the better. And it's also we look at before we work with any client, we take some time to look under the hood at their ad accounts. We do an extensive audit at a very deep level to understand kind of what they're doing. And then we present that to the client and we say, hey, these are the things not based on opinion, but based on math and experience that we think you're doing well. And conversely, these are the things you're not doing well. And most importantly, this is what we would do if we were in the driver's seat managing your investment. And then through that process, we get to know the client better and they get to know us. So it's really important that, at this stage in our kind of evolution, we're looking for also personalities and chemistry. So it's not just can you afford us? It's do we think we can bring value and do we think we're aligned in terms of the direction we want to take your business? Because if there's misalignment, it could be a major friction point, right? If our personalities are not gelling, it's probably going to be a problem, right? So we're also looking out to see if it's a good match from a strategy perspective, from a way we think about business perspective, because we know that the journey will be a series of ups and downs. It's not always upward. And so when the going is going to get tough, is this something that we're going to sort of work on together? Or is it going to be very kind of adversarial? So we're kind of looking for those things as well.
Yes, yes. That was my first thought. Can we get along? Because all money ain't good money.
It's not all the same. I agree with you. It's not worth it, right? Some cases,
Yeah.
just because you can afford us doesn't mean you can, treat our team badly, or it
Mm.
doesn't mean you can place excess demands on us. They're just, we're looking to work with reasonable people that are smart, that are in this with us. They understand the definition of a partnership, even though we are the provider and they are our customer. It doesn't matter. This is still a partnership and it requires us each to have roles and responsibilities and for us to each be accountable to things because unfortunately, we do not control everything. So, in the areas that we don't control, we need them to step up and deliver. Otherwise, the outcomes will be less than favorable.
Yes. And I like the word that you use, partnership, because that's really critical. Even in my business, it's a partnership. We sit here, we talk about your business. I create some marketing for you. I expect you to share it. I'm a share it. you know,
I
and it's a
agree.
partnership. It's my time and your time. And it's important that we have that understanding before we even start. So
Yeah, I think that's it's really important. And I always tell my customers the team is working very hard and the way you are with them either motivates them or demotivates them,
right.
right? And I see this even myself when I go to a restaurant or a hotel and I see really happy or a retail store and I see really happy employees. I always survey them on my own because I'm curious and I say, this must be a great place to work because the way you treat me, the experience I have here is excellent. And to me, that means that you're happy and
Yeah.
they treat you well, they train you, they invest in you, they take care of you because that's directly sort of reflected in the way that you deliver the service to me. So I've always felt that like the employer has a role in treating the team well, investing in them, and that will sort of be on display with a customer, but also the customer in the way that they treat the employee. in this case, we're a vendor, so it's not like we're in-house, but we're still a part of the team, really makes the difference between someone wanting to work hard for you or not work hard for you. So I think that's always something that, people need to remember. It's very easily forgotten because we're all dealing with a lot of to-dos. But you can't lose sight of that even when it's an agency relationship, because people are still, influenced by how you treat them and how you make them feel.
Absolutely. Number one ingredient. For sure. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Let's talk a little bit about um cu- your clients. And you just went over how you select them. Okay. Now, once you get into the situation with them, and let's say things are slow, because as we know, marketing is repetitious actions, and they want quickness. How do you handle
Mhm.
that?
Yeah, I mean, I think people want speed, and we understand that, and we also operate at, we operate with a sense of urgency in the way we do business because we understand that people are under a lot of pressure. A lot of the customers that we work with, a lot of the contacts that we have within these organizations, they're under a lot of pressure from the folks above them. And
Mhm.
so it just ends up sort of coming to us, right, as a result of that. So I think we want to operate as fast as we can, but be thoughtful along the way and make sure that we're making the right decisions. And sometimes that does require us to say, hey, you hired us as the experts. And while we understand you want to move quickly, there are certain things we need to do before we can move that quickly. So it's important for us to identify those and talk through them. So we're always going to be the fastest ones moving, but sometimes we are relying on the client to do something in order for us to move to the next stage, right? So we are oftentimes blocked. But I think when someone wants us to move fast, the answer is we will move as fast as we can, but be thoughtful along the way, because at the end of the day, s- speed is important, but we also have to be sort of aware of not rushing things without really having thought them through, right? Could be like a decision related to creative, or it could be a decision related to an offer or messaging. So yeah, we understand that people want to move quickly, but it's up to us to sort of set the pace and explain what is realistic versus not realistic. So as long as we're aligned there, that's fine. And we tend to be very direct in our way of communicating with clients because we want them to know that we want to do what's best for them, and we want them to trust us. But it's on us to really explain things and really make sure that we are sort of setting the tone. Now, ultimately, they're the customer, they decide, but we absolutely are being hired to not always tell them what they want to hear, but instead tell them what we think is the best course of action for their business.
Absolutely, absolutely. And they came to you for that. So,
Yes. Yeah,
yes,
that's what they're paying us for. And I think the worst relationship you can have is one where you do everything you're told, even when you don't agree.
yeah,
Sometimes they'll test us and they'll say, should we, I want to do this. And they're expecting us to push back because they may think that's not a good thing. So I always tell the team is always give your true assessment of things. And ultimately, the client can override you because they are the customer. They can disagree with you. They can say, no, we're doing this. Even if you've told me you don't think it's the right decision, we should absolutely document what our recommendation is, but at the end of the day, they can override our decision because they are the customer. But we should always, at a minimum, give them what we think is the best thing to do.
absolutely, absolutely. Because I mean, in your spirit and as a company, when you know it's not the right thing to do, your gut is telling you this is not the right thing to do. And it is your job at that point to let the customer know this is not the right thing to do because of these things.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, that's really the value we bring, right? And we have to be looking out for the customer. We are the experts. It's what we do for a living. It's why We exist. So I think being silent is not an option. I think we have to be vocal. We have to be clear in our communications. We need to document things to make sure that with everybody having such a busy schedule, things can be forgotten, right? So, yeah.
Mhm. For sure. So let's talk a little bit about AI and your business.
Mhm.
Because I mean, now just about every business is using AI to help them. So how do you use
Yeah,
AI?
we are, with respect to AI, embracing AI and recognizing it's here to stay and will only get better. So we view AI not as a way to displace employees, instead, uh, support their efforts in delivering customer service and delivering sort of performance for our clients. So yes, it's sort of built into a lot of the sort of team's work, and we use it, a lot for coming up with, messaging for ads, coming up with sort of creating ads at scale. So for design work, it's been very useful. Just putting a lot of ads out with relatively low effort versus having a designer do it one by one. AI allows us to create ads at scale. Also, just working through various business sort of challenges, right? Like, hey, I have this situation, I have this offer, this promotion that I want to run. What are some good ideas as ways to kind of market this? So a lot of just like it's a lot around content creation, um, messaging on ads, creating ads, things like that is how the team is using it in media buying.
Yes, yes. Neil, do you do anything with television?
No, everything we do at the moment is really online using the channels that I had mentioned. So we do some postal mail that we're starting to do with some of our clients, direct mail, which is really effective for some of the companies that we work with.
Mhm.
But we've not done really, that's not to say we wouldn't sort of move into that direction, but it's all been digital.
Oh, okay, okay. Yes, because that's definitely another market,
Hmm.
indeed. And I'm a TV person sometimes. I like it for company when I'm working. And but sometimes in the back of your mind, you're still listening to some of the things that's coming on, even though you're working. So yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
So again, how can people, businesses get in contact with you?
Yeah, I would say connect with me on LinkedIn. Borja Cuan, that's Borjacuan. I write a lot on LinkedIn. Um, I post a lot of content on LinkedIn. So feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Also, you can go directly to our website, 415digital.com. That's FOUR15digital.com. There's a contact us form. If you fill that out, we'll be in touch with you very soon.
Okay, this is more of a personal question. How did you arrive here? What sparked your interest in this field?
I think it was because I was introduced to online marketing when I was right out of college back in 1998. I didn't know much about the internet. It was a relatively new concept.
Mhm.
And it was at my first job right out of college that I was introduced to the internet, and specifically was affiliate marketing. And I ended up sort of staying at that first company for 8 years and then going on to another company for 6 years. So it was really 1998. I joined number 29 at an early internet startup and never left. So it was there that really left a memorable experience for me, learning a lot, meeting a lot of great people, having been mentored and coached by really, really solid leaders. Um, and I was given a lot of opportunity and kind of moved up the ranks and, never looked back.
Yeah, so that's great. So you found your sweet spot early on.
I did just by chance, not by design. It just was kind of one of those things where I got an interview and wasn't really looking for that type of opportunity, but I ended up taking the interview and here I am today.
Yes, and you never know how it's going to show up. That's one thing we cannot predict.
Exactly. Exactly.
For sure. Wow. Wow. I'm just trying to think about everything that you talked about. I hope the audience has definitely taken notes because, you know, added, getting your message out is really, really how you grow your business. There's no other way. And,
Yep.
so let's talk quickly about messaging
Hmm.
because a lot of people have a problem with that.
Yep. Messaging is tough. I mean, I think um, it requires a lot of experimentation. I think you have to consider who the advertiser is, who their audience is, who are they trying to get in front of, who are they trying to get engage with their offer, their product or service. And it's testing, right? I think messaging, a lot of people are looking for a very specific call to action, right? If you're in e-commerce, obviously, promotions are really appealing to consumers, right? Free shipping, $5 off, 10% off, limited time offers. Um, if you're more of a B2B company, it could be, hey, access this white paper on employee benefits, right?
Mhm.
Um, so I think we do a lot of experimentation because ultimately you have to test in this business, even with ads, right? Your top performing ad, you're always looking to iterate upon that to find the next best ad that will take that over, right? So things become stagnant, they have a shelf life like anything, and you always have to be experimenting with messaging, with the actual ads, font, color, things like that. So messaging is just obviously because we've done this, we kind of have some understanding of what works depending on the client. But a lot of times it's really a lot of experimentation and constant pushing of boundaries, balancing between being too aggressive and too conservative, right? Depending on the client and the brand, they may have more limitations in what you can do from a marketing standpoint because they want to be compliant or they're regulated or we can't make claims. So every customer is different depending on what type of business they're in. But yeah, in general, it requires a lot of experimentation and testing.
Yes, because at the end of the day, the public is the judge.
Exactly. And you're dealing with a lot of different types of people that, each respond to different things. So it's just one of those things where you just have to, you do a very good job of coming up with new ideas, pushing the boundaries, reporting on it, making sure you're looking at the metrics, and then, uh, you know, adjusting based on what you're seeing in terms of what is working and not working.
Now, in your experience, um, how often do you have to run an ad before you get a bite, so to speak? How
Yeah,
often
I
do
mean,
people have to see it?
I think we typically say you want to invest, let's say, in a campaign, a couple $1,000s, right? On Meta or on Google. You want to generate enough views for that person to, for that customer to kind of get a sense for if it's working or not. So we usually go by spend. How much money should I spend on Meta running this ad before
Mhm.
I decide if it works or it doesn't work. So a lot of it is driven by spend, and then you look at, well, how many people looked at the ad, how many people clicked on the ad, how many people converted, right? How many people actually purchased the product or filled out this form. So it's
Mhm.
usually a couple $1,000s that we want to at a minimum test, and we'll test it over um, 2 to 3 weeks, testing different ad concepts. So maybe not one ad concept. We'll maybe test a few different concepts within that 2, 3 week period with different messaging, right? To see what is best in terms of performance. So usually, for any advertiser that we work with, we always say to work with us, we want you to spend a minimum of $15,000 within a 30-day period to really test things, and do that for at least 3 to 4 months. Because we need to make sure that we have a lot of sort of data under our belt before we can make any decisions, you know like in terms of what the opportunity size is. Otherwise, if you're just throwing a couple $100 at it, it's not enough to really make any conclusive sort of decisions on what the opportunity is for that customer on that channel.
Yes, and you're right, because I mean, as small businesses, they don't have thousands of dollars to spend,
No.
and there's many complaints that if they spend a couple $100, they typically don't get anything.
Yep, that's right.
So you've just defined why.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, so you definitely have to have a budget for marketing for sure. And if you don't have one, you need to be, so let's say you don't have one. What are some recommendations to get you to a place to be able to afford your company?
Well, I think you need to, the bottom line is you need to come up with that budget, uh, which means you need to either have the capital or raise it, right? If you don't have any dollars to invest, then it's going to be very difficult to scale, right? So I think if you are not making money on the business to then be able to set that money aside, the profits of that money to then reinvest, maybe you have to raise money, but eventually you have to have capital. It's a capital intensive
Mm.
thing, which again, you don't need millions of dollars, but you do need some amount of money to test. And you need to have patience, right? So you have to earmark some amount of money into advertising. And it's not for everybody. It may not be something you can do out of the gates, but eventually I think you really need to allocate some amount of advertising dollars to test on these channels. And the key is doing it with a company that knows what they're doing, because if you only have one chance, you want to make sure that you're setting yourself up for success or giving yourself the highest probability of succeeding, which means do it with a company that knows what they're doing, because it's not worth taking the chance.
Yes, yes, yes. Wow. This has been very educational, Mr. Kwan, to say the least, because I mean that's the biggest thing in any company is marketing and coming up with a budget to get it done and selecting the right person to do the job.
Exactly. Yep.
So it's a lot. Now let's talk a little bit about that in terms of businesses selecting the right representation for their marketing.
Yeah, you mean in the employee side?
No, I mean, when people are out looking for somebody to support them in
Yep.
marketing, what should
Yeah.
they be looking for?
Yeah, I mean, I think you should really understand how much experience a company has, right? Who are the clients that they've worked with, past or present, or both? What channels are they specializing in, and do those channels align with the channels that you want to invest in?
Mhm.
How long has the agency been in business? How much media have they managed over that time period? Um, look at their success stories, right? Case studies. But most importantly, after doing all those things, make sure that they bring you value before you sign a contract, meaning do what we do, which is do an audit, have them do an audit of your business and have them sort of evaluate um, your business from a digital standpoint, and then give you their point of view on what they believe is needed to take it to the next level. It really requires them to spend time looking at the ad accounts, putting pen to paper, coming up with their thoughts and outlining what their strategy would be, and then talking to you about it and making sure that there's alignment. So I think you can do all the stuff I said because you need to do all that stuff as part of the due diligence, but then really have them do an audit of your business and make sure you're able to hear from them firsthand on how they would take your business to the next level to make sure that you are in agreement with that strategy. I think is a very important part in the process, because no matter what you read on a website, no matter what they tell you about their customers that they've worked with, at the end of the day, if it were me, I'd want to know, what are you going to do for me? Uh, and how can you help my business to make it the most relevant and productive?
Yes, absolutely. So again, how do businesses connect with you?
FOUR15digital.com is our website. A lot
Mhm.
of information there and a form you can fill out. We'll be in touch. And then also through LinkedIn, Borja Cuan, Borjacuan. Feel free to connect with me there.
Wow. Thank you so much, Mr. Kwan, for meeting with us today. We definitely appreciate all the nuggets you just dropped on us. And that, ladies and gentlemen, if you need marketing and you have the budget, please visit Mr. Kwan because he's definitely serious about taking your business to the next level. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed the conversation.
Absolutely.